The following video is based on the assembly of the carrier kit that has already taken place. This means operator and carrier profile are already mounted on the substructure. The door leaves and thus also the carriers have been installed and aligned. The two engaging units have been screwed to the inner carriers. For further assembly, it is particularly important that the two attachment strips for the drive unit and the deflection device have been inserted into the operator profile before the operator profile is installed and can be easily moved. In the first step, the attachment strip for the drive unit is positioned on the right-hand side of the operator profile. The dimension from the right edge of the opening to the middle threaded bolt of the fastening strip is 160 mm. After alignment, the attachment strip is fixed and no longer needs to be moved. The central threaded bolt reflects the center position of the belt of the motor. A short preparation is necessary before installing the drive unit. First, the protective foil of the heat conducting pad must be removed. This is very important and must not be forgotten under any circumstances. In the next step, the enclosed hammerhead screw is pre-assembled from the outer holder. After preparation, the drive unit can be inserted into the operator profile. The whole group of the holders fits exactly on the threaded bolts of the already fixed attachment strip. For temporary fixing, the unit is fastened to the second threaded bolt from the right with a hexagon nut. As soon as the nut is hand tightened, you can let go of the drive unit and tighten the other fastening points. The threaded bolt on the far right remains free for the time being. The required grounding cable is now screwed to the outer threaded bolt of the drive unit on one side and to the operator profile on the other side using a hammerhead screw. Make sure that the enclosed toothed rings are in direct contact with the fastening bracket of the drive unit or the operator profile. This allows the teeth of the rings to be pressed into the material and ensures a secure grounding between the unit and the profile. Finally, the hammerhead screws are marked with a sticker as the central grounding point. To fix the deflection device, only the nuts are screwed on loosely at first, so that the unit can still be moved by hand. Like the drive unit, the deflection device must also be positioned at the correct place in the operator profile. Here, the dimension 160 mm also applies, this time from the left edge of the passage opening to the center of the deflection device. After adjusting the dimension, the left nut is hand tightened and the deflection device is prefixed with it. In the next assembly step, the tooth belt is installed and tensioned. To do this, the toothed belt is first placed around the drive pulley of the motor. Then the upper and lower belts are guided to the center of the operator. While the upper belt is only loosely laid over the upper belt connection, the end of the lower belt is pushed into the lower belt connection up to the middle. In the further course, pull the upper belt around the guide pulley and the guide belt back to the lower belt connection. Now the required tooth belt length can be determined and the belt shortened accordingly. The cut must be made cleanly so that the end can be inserted into the belt connection without any problems. If not, correct the cut. The tooth belt is closed by pushing the end of the belt into the still free part of the belt connection. To tension the toothed belt, first loosen the prefixed nut of the deflection device. Then push the deflector outwards by hand as far as possible and slightly pre-tension the toothed belt. In this position, the deflection unit is finally fixed with the two nuts. When tightening, make sure that the unit is aligned parallel to the operator profile. The actual tensioning of the tooth belt begins when the two front screws are loosened. The spindle between the tooth belts is turned clockwise using a ratchet or ratchet spanner. This causes the carriage with a guide pulley to move outwards, thus tensioning the belt. The correct belt tension is reached when the red marking on the spindle appears in the viewing window and is in the position of the arrow markings. As soon as this position is reached, the two front screws are tightened again. This completes the tensioning process. In the next step, the upper toothed belt is inserted into the belt connection. Make sure that the two door leaves are correctly aligned with the passage opening beforehand. The slotted holes in the belt connections can be used to make fine adjustments at a later date if necessary. Finally, the enclosed plastic safety clips are clipped to the belt connections. The securing clips have a very great effect on the toothed belt fastening and must not be forgotten under any circumstances during assembly. The operator interlock can be carried out both with the drive unit installed and with it not installed. However, later installation of the drive unit has proven to be the more simple method of installation. To mount the locking device, it is placed on the tooth belt outside the drive unit. The toothed belt now acts as a guide so that the locking device can be easily inserted into the intended receptacle on the back of the drive unit. The locking device is then fastened with the enclosed hexagon socket screws. As a rule, the left-hand through holes in the holder are used. The right-hand holes are only used for very small operators with certain equipment. Adjustment of the locking mechanism is not necessary and is carried out automatically during commissioning. To connect the locking device to the control unit, the cable with the plug is plugged onto the side of the control unit. The plug is coded and cannot be plugged in incorrectly. To prevent the cable from getting into moving drive parts, it must be fixed outside the running area at the back of the control unit. To do this, clip the two enclosed plastic cable holders into the pre-prepared holes in the back of the control unit housing. The cable is then pressed into the cable holders. For the installation of the internal cover, at least 3 cover brackets are fixed in the operator profile. For operators over 4.5 meters, 5 brackets are required. Depending on the equipment and length of the operator, they are positioned on both outer sides and in the center of the profile. The positions are not exactly defined in terms of dimensions and are done according to the space available. For installation, the cover brackets are screwed into the corresponding profile slots in a similar way to a hammerhead screw and then secured with the 2 hexagonal screws. The subsequent assembly of the internal cover is done in exactly the same way as for the ES200. The shorter hinge profiles are compensated for by a higher number. As with the ES200, grounding must be carried out via an enclosed cable. After installation, the plastic cables are inserted into the profile as counterparts to the cover holder, aligned and fixed. When aligning, make sure that the notch of the plastic part is positioned centrally to the notch opening in the cover holder. When all the cover components have been fitted, the internal cover can be swung open for service activities and locked in various positions using the stand. For long operators in particular, it is best to start by locking the center cover holder and then move on to the outer ones. If the internal cover cannot be opened fully upwards due to structural conditions, it can also be locked in a lower position. The assembly of the mechanical components is now complete.